success stories told by the people who live them.
We're going to have some guests on this show that everybody knows, and we're going to have guests on this show that nobody knows yet.
One by one, Nick Hyder is adding hits to the hit streak.
Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hit Streak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder, and check it out. Today is a milestone episode for us right here at the Hit Streak, and because of that, I got an extra special guest for you guys. But today marks our 50th episode of the Hit Streak. It's absolutely incredible. I want to thank every single guest that we've ever had, the whole production team. It's absolute, every single listener from all 14 countries, all 50 states. I love you and thank you all so very, very much. This is a huge deal for us. Episode number 50. And as promised, folks, I have an extra special guest for me in the house. He's actually joining me from Tempe, Arizona today. Folks, I have the NFL great, two-time Super Bowl champion, David Diaz-Infante. DDI, how we doing, baby?
I'm doing fantastic. And I'm the one that's honored to be on the 50th episode. And so glad to join you guys. I'm excited to share a little time with you and share part of my story.
Absolutely, man. Well, first of all, I'm a big baseball guy, right? So if you're a World Series champion, that's that's as big as it gets. But at the same time, to win a Super Bowl, not once, but twice. Incredible. So tell me a little bit. A lot of people have asked me that. What was the difference between the first one and the second one emotionally, right? Which one's more special to you?
Well, I tell you what, I think probably the first one, but the other thing is they're back-to-back. That makes it even a little more special. It's that much harder to do in the National Football League or in any sport. But I would have to say Super Bowl 32. And in fact, our 25th anniversary is coming up here, and we're all getting together in October back in Denver. So it'll be great to see all my old teammates from that Super Bowl 32 team. And then we went on to win Super Bowl 33 as well the following year in 1998 in the 99 Super Bowl. But definitely I think the first one, because no one expected us to win. We were big underdogs, the Green Bay Packers. The only people who expected us to win was ourselves. And so I think we were 13-point underdogs or something like that. And we came up, went down to San Diego and whooped up on the Packers, and then became world champions for the first time. And little did we know that we were going to repeat the next year, and we were kicking everybody's tail in 1998, and kind of expected to win when we beat the Falcons in Super Bowl 33.
Incredible, man. So you said something that we talk about a lot around here, and my wife and I love the show Ted Lasso, and he has the believe sign, and that's you got to believe and believe. And you said that I don't think anybody believed that we were going to win except for us, and that's the most important thing, right? Out of everything. And isn't it amazing how few folks actually believe in themselves or believe they can win or believe they can accomplish whatever it is they're dreaming about?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I'll tell you one thing for sure is I always look at if I could do it, anybody could do it. And I think it was Washington Times that dubbed me the ultimate underdog in Super Bowl 32, just because my journey was a little bit different, as anybody's journey is, right? They're all different. But I probably wasn't supposed to be there. I had been cut 6 or 8 times by then, or 6 times by then. And anytime someone tells you that you're not good enough or there's no room for you, it hurts. And sometimes people's career ends there. But one thing I've always tried to tell people, if there's any secret to my success, and I say this tongue-in-cheek, I was just dumb enough not to quit. Don't think you got all the answers. 2 is the only way to get to 4. I knew I could always play. I was able to continue playing through my career, and it was really kind of my background. I had one D1 offer coming out of high school, and that was the San Jose State and Jack Elway and the Spartans, and was supposed to get drafted, didn't get drafted, was a free agent. So there have been plenty of ups and downs in my career.
Well, you said something that, I was brought up in the house that you never lose a game. You just sometimes run out of time, right? So nobody ever beat me. We just ran out of time. And that was my dad is very old school, and a buddy of his actually told me that story one time, that a guy was threatening to whoop his butt, and the guy looked at the guy that wanted to whoop my dad's butt and said, hey man, like, I don't know if that's such a good idea. And he said, what, you don't think I can kick his ass? And he said, no, you can, but it's going to take you all day. So,
I love that. I can relate to that.
There's so much truth in that, man. So, once again, thanks so much for hanging with me today. You're a super busy dude. It's an absolute honor and pleasure to have you on the show today, joining me. We're going to be adding all kinds of hit to the hit streak. Sound good?
I love it.
Awesome. Folks, if you want to check him out, first of all, on social media, on Instagram, D Diaz-Infante, right? And on Twitter at DDI63, right? So check him out, give him a follow, all kinds of great content. David, like, one of the things that we pride ourselves here in this show is we uncover things. We talk about things that most of the time doesn't get brought to light, right? So your story is incredible. Just what you've given us so far about all the things that you overcame to get there. That's what when people see the success, they need to know that, like, the road to that path is, or the path to that success is always bumpy and always hard. It's never easy. That's what makes it worth it, and that's why so few people do it, right? So I played further than a lot of guys that were more talented, bigger, and stronger, and quite frankly, maybe even a better baseball player than I was. Except I just kept showing up. You know what I mean? I just kept showing up. So, talk to me about where were you born and raised, and at what point in time was football what you wanted to do?
Well, I'll tell you what. I was born and raised in San Jose, California. First generation from Mexico. My father was from Mexico, and grew up in San Jose. And my father didn't play football. I didn't come from pedigree. He never really saw many of my games because he was a boxer and weightlifter in Mexico. And I tried to play football when I was 9 years old, and rode my bike down to the park by myself. And I remember going up to Coach Reed. I'll never forget him. Big black guy with a deep voice, and he looked. I rode my bike over by myself, not with my parents there, but I said, "I'm here to sign up to play football." And he goes, "Well, son, you got to be 10 years old." And he goes, "You're 9," and I'm going, "Yeah, but I'm 90 pounds. I know that's the weight limit." And he goes, "Well, you got to be 10 years old, son. So why don't you come back next year?" So I did. I remember working out that whole year. Probably the best shape of my life at 10 years old.
Okay.
I came back and started playing football at 10, and I fell in love with the game. My father, was in prison when I was a kid. And so the Catholic Church took care of us, and I was fortunate enough to get a great education, parochial education at the Catholic schools. So my life was really a dichotomy in one sense, being on welfare in one way and then going to the best schools in another. But the one thing I found out about football and why I fell in love with the game, it was no one cared. It was the fairest thing I've ever done. I got rewarded for what I did on the field, and at the young age of 10, that made a lot of sense to me. I didn't understand a lot of other things that were going on, but that much I did understand. I said, "Hey, I love this game. I get rewarded for what I do on the field," and I found out at a young age I could go maybe a little bit harder than most people.
There it is. That's right. Well, you said something too. I literally just saw somebody sent me a video yesterday where they were talking about. As a matter of fact, it was an NFL guy. I got to look this up and tell you who it was. Because it was so good. It was so good. Hold on just one second. This is it. Because you being tied to the game and still involved in the game today, you know exactly who I'm talking about here. So let's see here if I can find it. He was saying, like, look, whatever I got going on in life outside of this game, nobody cares. Nobody cares. They came here to watch me perform. They came here to watch me do the job, and it's my job to do the job. And anything else that's going on in my life, nobody cares. It was Derek Carr, and he said, "Life is hard. Yeah. Life is hard. Nobody cares."
I'm a big fan of Derek Carr. What he did last year and was incredible with that team and form of leadership. And I got to know him, interviewed him a few times. He was at Fresno State. When I was working for ESPN and calling college games. I got a lot of respect for that guy and his character, I guess I would say.
That's right. So you have you said it before, and we were talking about it pre-show that you kind of did a podcast before podcast for podcast, and the name of it was the Ultimate Underdog, and that's been referred to you, or you've been referred as the Ultimate Underdog over and over and over again. Well, first of all, we all love the Underdog Story, right? It's made it's made Hollywood gazillions of dollars. The Underdog Story, right? So I'm a big believer in, if it wasn't hard, you wouldn't appreciate it when you get it, or when you get it. If there wasn't good, there wouldn't be good without evil, right? There wouldn't be light without dark. You have to have something on the opposite side of the spectrum to let you understand what it is that you got, right? So you overcame a ton. So take us forward. So you at 10 years old, you went and tried out. Walk me through the process after that. So you said the church was able to help you get into some great schools, right? But at the same time, you're going home dirt poor.
But we may have been poor, but we weren't lacking anything. I had plenty of love. My mom really kind of held everything together, and my dad was obviously a very strong force in our lives. But I was fortunate enough to go to Bellarmine College Prep, a Jesuit high school in San Jose, California, and we were really good football team, number 4 in the country, California state champs, and we were good. 4 guys ended up playing in the NFL off our high school team, so we were pretty talented. We were pretty tough, and I was proud to be a captain on those teams, and I learned a lot from the school in terms of taking care of academics and being a complete person, and learn how to serve your community, being a man for others, what the Jesuits really stand for. And that really kind of carried on for me, because I always felt like I owed somebody something. Okay. Because people cared when they didn't have to care. I think that's the real measure of things. And my father used to always tell me, he said, the cost of being a gentleman is nothing, but the rewards are many. Oh. And so he goes, it costs you nothing to be nice to people. And so I always carried that, because it made a lot of sense to me. But I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to San Jose State. It was the only D1 school to offer me a scholarship. Incredible. Other one was Santa Clara University, which is another Jesuit college, Division II program. No longer play football there, but they were a good D2 football program, and a lot of the priests and president of my high school really wanted me to go there. Yeah, they had my future all planned out for me. They said, Dave, you're gonna major in political science. You're gonna go to law school, and you're gonna be the mayor of San Jose someday. Wow. And I said, wow, that sounds great, Father. But what about, I want to play Division I football. I had something to prove. I saw these guys getting scholarships everywhere, and I really felt like I was as good, if not better. That's right. And so the thing that really stands out to me the most is Jack Elway was the guy that offered me a scholarship. Ended up playing with John Elway, his son, and obviously with the Denver Broncos years later. But there's always someone that believes in you in your life. And I always remember the day that they were coming to my house to offer me a scholarship. And, in your 18-year-old mind, fear exists, That's you don't want something. When you want something so bad, you're scared it's going to be taken away. And I really wanted that scholarship. And so I remember racing home that night thinking, oh, my gosh, Jack Elway and Coach Kerr are going to be there in the living room with my father. I go, what are they going to have in common? What if they don't? Our house isn't very nice. We don't. What if they don't like it? What if they decide not to get a scholarship? As all those things begin to play in your mind, right? Absolutely. And I'll never forget walking in the door that night when I got home, and sure enough, all those fears were set aside when I walked in the door and saw my dad and Jack Elway sharing a cigarette and a drink and talking. And right then I realized Jack didn't care what my house looked like. He didn't care about all that stuff that I thought may or may not be important. That was in the back of my mind. And all he cared about was me, David the person, and my family. And so when he offered me a scholarship, I told him, I go, you will never regret the day you gave me the scholarship. I was grateful. And I went on to start 4 years there, and we ended up being number 20 in the country my senior year and winning a bowl game. And so I always feel like indebted to him, and I made sure that it was reflected in how I played the game and what I did for the university.
That's incredible. That's incredible, man. And then, and you'd mentioned that you'd been cut from the NFL. How many times did you get cut, did you say?
I think maybe 8 times total. I'm not quite sure. Wow. You start to lose track after a while. But when I left San Jose State, I remember we won our bowl game. Everyone's going, man, you're going to get drafted. And I thought, well, I hope so. And, good luck in your career after after San Jose State, and I'll never forget, me and I had one of my roommates and great buddies in college, John Aminetti, was a big Portuguese Italian guy, and both of us were looking at getting drafted, right? Because he was another really good player.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in fact, there was a big article they wrote in like West Magazine, priming for the pros, and these guys are going to make it. And I know it was getting close to the draft, and John came up to me. He goes, "Hey," he goes, the press want to come to my house and and cover us, when we get drafted. And I'm going, I don't know, because when you're hearing 6th, 7th round, there were like 13, 14 rounds back then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going, I don't know, I'm not sure, but we went and did it anyways. And sure enough, neither one of us got drafted. And on the cover of the San Jose Mercury News sports section was a big picture that day, saying it's a picture of us in his kitchen, and it said "waiting for the call." ...
Oh my
Never
gosh!
came. And so I cut that picture out and I put it on the inside door to my apartment bedroom. So I had to look at that thing every day when I got up to go work out and train. And I had a hard time getting a tryout even, which really made me burn on the inside. I ended up signing with, I think, the San Diego Chargers for $500 or something. I failed my physical. I refused to leave. I was driving around. Ortmeyer's there. I go, I am not driving back to San Jose without even having a chance.
Right.
I go, I'm not going to leave. I'm driving around. I go, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm in San Diego, which is a good thing. I'm driving around, and finally, I'm talking to my agent, and I talked to, I think it was Steve Ortmeyer, was player personnel, and I'm going, look, I'll sign a waiver. Because, the dummy, naive, young player that I was, telling the doctor, I've had these shin splints, and they were afraid I was going to get stress fractures. The one thing you never do.
That's right.
As I learned as the years go on, is never tell them what's really going on with you. So I ended up signing a waiver, going there, ended up getting cut. And then I came back and played during the strike in 87. And then went to the Rams in 88, 89. Probably played my best football, but I got hurt both years. Gotcha. First year, I hyperextended my elbow against the Cowboys in Thousand Oaks. And I was long snapping and playing center and guard and had a good chance to make the team. Played some of my best football, but ended up not working out, right? So they ended up cutting me. And then I came back and signed me, and I thought the job was mine, backing up Doug Smith. But at 10 days before training camp, I sprained my ankle really bad playing basketball, and it was really breaking off the tip of the tibia in there. Tried to make it through training camp, couldn't make it through, figured my career was over, and ended up moving up to Seattle to with my buddy that got picked up by the Seahawks.
Okay.
In fact, he was from right here in Arizona. And so in fact, the funny thing, I had called him. The worst thing could be from a kid from Arizona in my mind was I pretended to be Marv Levy from Buffalo Bills. And I told him we were acquiring him off waivers. And then, so when Coach Knox actually called him from the Seahawks after I had done that to him, he didn't believe him. So then he called me. He goes, dude, you won't believe what happened. And he goes, move up to Seattle with me. He goes, they're going to pay for your rehab. You can live with me. I don't want to go up there by myself. And I was on my way to Hawaii to go visit my buddies and rehab my ankle and figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life, right?
Yep.
So now I've been cut 3 times or 4 times, because twice with the Chargers, once before the strike and once after the strike. And so I ended up moving up there and got a job working at a gym, ended up meeting my wife up there, and then ended up coming back at the end of the year and finishing up my degree and started coaching at San Jose State. And then Jack Elway got the job when the World League started.
Okay.
And he called me and said, hey, Dave, again, Jack Elway, I'm one of those guys, there's always someone that believes in you.
That's right.
There's always that one person that says, man, this guy can play. I believe in the person, not just the player, right? And so I always appreciated that about Jack. Because he told me, he goes, look, you can coach when you're done playing. He goes, you're not done playing. Come and play for me. So I went and played in the World League in 91 and 92 and just had a blast and traveled all over Europe. And like I tell my buddies in the NFL, may not be getting rich, but we are rock stars over here.
I bet.
And it was a blast. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Was doing what I loved. May not have been where I wanted to be ultimately, but I certainly was grateful for the opportunity to continue to play, to continue to get better. As long as you're playing, you can get better, right? And there's always things you can do along the way to improve as a player and a person. And so Of course, that league folded. And then I had, and this is really kind of a crazy story. So you have to be patient with me because it's crazy. When I look back
dude, this
on it,
is
it really
fantastic
is
stuff.
And so 93 comes around and I have a chance to sign with the 49ers in my own hometown, right? And I go through without a contract. I get a shot because I figure I may not get another chance ever.
Right.
This might be the last hurrah, right? And like deep down inside, I know I could play, right? I know I can play. I've been able to play the game since day one I've ever played it, and the game doesn't change that much.
That's right.
And so we go there. I end up signing. I finally get a contract. I go into training camp, and then the local paper asked me to write a journal. So not only so here's the world, right? The world tells you if there's a 99% chance you're going to fail at something, you probably shouldn't do it.
That's right.
Right? That's what the world will tell you.
Right.
But
that's right.
I wasn't listening to the world.
There it is.
I was just dumb enough not to quit. And I thought, well, how can I make sense of this in my own mind? And I told myself there's only one way I could fail. That's if someone outworks me. And so I went to that camp and I developed strategies. I went there and they're a really good football team now. They went on to win the Super Bowl that year. And so they're a talented football team. And so we go there and I told myself, I got an approximation, right? It's a very sound theory, a way of taking small steps to get to the bigger steps to get to your goal, correct? And so I thought, well, I developed these own strategies to allow myself to stack wins on a daily basis. The first guy to breakfast.
That's so good.
First guy to the training table. The first guy out of practice. The first guy to meetings. And it was brutal, 120 degrees. And I played my ass off. I probably made a few more mental mistakes than I typically would make. I was pretty much considered a smart player, but their offense was the first I was ever kind of introduced to that kind of level. And so when I look at things that I could have done better, which I always do, because I always wanted to be an inside-out job, not an outside-in job.
Oh, man.
And so I looked at that and I thought, man, if I could do this. And sure enough, it started working out because I remember I go to the cafeteria one day and it's not easy to do it's easy to do the first day, but every day when you're tired and beat up and I was playing well, making a name for myself. Everyone's going, how come you haven't been in the NFL yet? I'm going, well, it didn't really work out. That's where a guy goes, man, he really got screwed here, screwed there. I'm going, I don't know. I never looked at it that way. I always thought, what could I have done better? And so I remember to breakfast one day with a buddy of mine, Ralph Tam, played for 12 years in the league. Big, burly caveman, redhead, bearded, West Philly guy, tough as nails. He walked up to me and we were competing for the same job, right? But I never looked at who I was competing. I was always competing with myself.
That's it.
How hard can I go? How good can I get? And so I remember he looked at me, he goes, Diaz, he goes, I thought I worked hard. He goes, every time I turn around, I see you. And I go, wow, it's working. Every time they turn around and see me. I remember Coach McKittrick, who I ended up getting cut, but he'd look at me before meetings. I'd be there early just trying to catch a quick nap or, make sure I'm there first. He goes, everything all right? And I go, yeah, everything's fine, Coach. I'm just making sure I'm here early, and I ended up getting cut in the end. So, quote unquote, I failed, correct? But I remember Bob McKittrick, one of the legendary offensive line coaches in the National Football League, ex-Marine. I love the guy. And he said, David, he goes, if it was up to me, you'd be here. He goes, but it's not. He goes, you can play in the NFL and you deserve to be here. And I go, Bob, if that's true, help me get a job somewhere because I know I can play. And sure enough, he ended up getting me over to the Sacramento gold miners. So here's another, what I call dubious distinctions in my career.
Okay.
Is I played in the CFL in Sacramento, California. So that even sounds funny, right?
Yeah.
When they expanded down to the States. But sure enough, and I was grateful to be there. And so I went there and ended up playing in 93 and 94 for the Sacramento gold miners. But the interesting thing about my time there was the 49ers actually tried to re-sign me. And I tried to get out of my contract there. And I had made the team better. I was up for lineman of the year in the Canadian Football League and, kind of reestablished our team and offense. And I go, hey, guys, there's a new sheriff in town. We are fighting every day against the defensive line. We are not losing one-on-ones, just resetting the tone.
That's right.
And so I told our general manager, and I said, hey, I've done everything you've asked me to do, I think I've made us a better team. I just was always been a coach on the field, helping guys get better, pushing guys to get better, be an example in that manner. And how a pro is supposed to act, because I've been around a lot of good pros. And so, my friends had played in the league, and I knew what it took. And so, but they wouldn't let me out. And he said, in fact, we're going to exercise our option on you for next year, too. And I'm going, wow. So the 49ers went on to win the Super Bowl that year anyways, too. So that always kind of stuck in my craw a little bit. But once again, I was grateful because I was playing the game that I love, getting better, and doing what I love. And I worked full-time in the off-season. So I was a substitute teacher. I worked as a title insurance guy, and to me, life was great because I was doing what I loved. Again, it may not be hopefully where I wanted to be, but man, I loved it. I love playing ball. I love being with the guys. I love working hard. I love kicking ass, and I always have. And so it's interesting. So we ended up, the league then goes, I finished 94. I'm about to sign a 3-year deal up in Canada once again. And I'm going to be one of the highest paid linemen in the league.
What is highest paid? Like what?
I think I was going to make $75,000 or something.
That's not bad.
But, I didn't think it was bad. I came from nothing.
That's
I work full time in the off season, so I'm making over $100,000. I'm thinking, hey, life's pretty good.
That's
and,
right.
And I had some other responsibilities too. So, but I was almost tempted to take the sure thing. But I get a phone call once again. Jack Elway is with the Denver Broncos, and he'd been telling them ever since '92, hey, bring Diaz-Infante in here, he'll end up starting for you. If you put him in a phone booth with someone, he's coming out. That's all I'll tell you about the guy. And they always said, is he really big enough? Is he fast enough? All the doubts are naysayers that people have. And, if you don't fit the certain numbers or the box they have for center guard type player, offensive lineman. So the funny thing so I'm getting ready. I'm thinking, man, I got to take the sure thing. And Mike Shanahan calls me. So from that failure in '93, guess who the offensive coordinator was for the San Francisco 49ers? Who? Mike Shanahan.
Okay.
Mike Shanahan remembered how they talked about me.
That's right.
He called me and he goes, Dave, I remember everyone talked about you. You should have made the team. And he goes, I need guys like you if we're going to do what we're going to do with the Broncos. And I said, Mike, if it's a real deal, let me know. But if it's not, I got a pretty good thing going on right now. I really wanted it, but I also felt an obligation to take the sure thing to, take care of my responsibilities, my girlfriend, and my mom and family, always, trying to make sure I could take care of what I had to take care of. Right. But again, my family said, my wife said, go ahead, we'll always be all right. And I needed them to say that.
That's right.
So I told Mike, if it's a real deal, let me know. And if not, let me know. And he goes, it's a real deal. So I ended up taking it. And from that failure of being cut in '93 and not being afraid to get cut, not being afraid of failing, quote unquote failing, I always say, all of a sudden I end up signing with the Denver Broncos, changed the course of history, played another 6-7 years, and won 2 Super Bowls with the Broncos, Super Bowl 32 and 33. So I was just dumb enough not to quit, right?
Dude, that's a lot of people said that about same thing about me for a long time. And you're talking about being basically like, one, you mentioned the word grateful multiple times. And first of all, you can't be in a bad mood if you're counting your blessings, right? So it's impossible to be in a bad mood if you're grateful. And but like you got remembered as a hard worker. And first of all, hard workers. So we've been studying what makes all the guiding principles that the SEAL Team 6 picks their people for. Sure. And there's a chart that they use. Basically, they have two basic measurements: trust and performance. And there's
I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, high performance. Everybody wants high trust and high performance. But they would rather have somebody that's medium performance or even low performance but high trust over somebody else, because those are the best teammates, right? And good and great teammates usually come together and accomplish great things together, right? Because you win and lose as a team in a team sport. So, me being one of the smaller guys, I was a catcher, right? So, I was like the size of second baseman and a lot of the second basemen and shortstops. So, the first day of spring training every year, when I took my shirt off, I was going to make a statement before I ever said a word, and they were going to know that I had busted my butt and given it everything that I had. And no matter what, I always got remembered for that. People still ask me to this day, do I still have the physical body that I had back then? I'm like, no, that body's long gone. But they remember it, and being remembered, especially when you're trying out and trying to earn a spots in business, in marketing, in everything, you got to be remembered, but you want to be remembered for the right reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. I can relate so much to that because I've always been a lifter. I still am to this day. I still train. And all my buddies look at me and go, what are you doing? It's just what I do.
That's right.
It's my mindset. It's my discipline. It's what I feel like gives me an edge on whatever I'm doing, even though I'm not playing anymore. But, it's a good thing. I've been fortunate. And like I said, our Super Bowl 32, we're having our 25th year anniversary. We're all going back in October.
Congratulations, by the way.
One of the games. And I've been fortunate to play on some great teams and with some great guys. And I always tell people, look, great teammates, unselfish people. That's how you win it all. If you want to be great, you got to have guys that care and care more about the goal, more about the team than they do about themselves. At least the majority of your team has to be made up of that. You have to have that strength and lock them to win it all, because it's so difficult to do in the National Football League. And I was fortunate to be a part of some great teams and some great teammates, and really be a part of one of the greatest offensive lines in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
And, the one interesting thing I always tell people, look, I was not a great player, but I was a great teammate. I was a good player, but a great teammate. And that always sticks out in my mind, because I always take tremendous pride in that.
Absolutely.
And one of the things, these dubious distinctions I had. So I was 31 years old when I finally made it with the Broncos.
Wow.
And I made the practice squad. I still might be the oldest player ever in the history of the practice squad of the NFL. I remember being so happy, Nick, so happy. My father had passed away already, but to call my mom and to tell her I made a team.
Incredible.
Meant the world to me.
That's right.
I used to laugh. Too, because I just wanted a team picture. I knew guys that had team pictures that I was better than,
Yeah.
And so I remember when I made that team, was in the team picture, I'm going, wow, finally did that. Okay, that's one goal. Then I wanted to make the roster. So the next year I came back at the age of 32, made the roster. Ended up starting 7-8 games that year. And I was the oldest, so I played in 87 and come back in 96. I think me and Tim Tebow and one other guy had the longest time between stints in the NFL.
Wow.
And I was, I think, maybe the oldest player ever to get his first start in the NFL at the age of 32. So that was the good news. The bad news, Nick, was it was against the Minnesota Vikings on national TV against John Randall.
Oh, yeah.
And it was billed the biggest, he's in the Hall of Fame. Great player. But it was billed as the biggest mismatch in the NFL that week by the USA Today. and that's another, at least I got that going for me. Yeah. I'll never forget, because Mark Schlereth, who I was his backup, and I backed up inside three. My role really became as a sixth man in football on the offensive line. I could play all five positions, but really the inside three is I could play either one of them as well and as good as a starter. But I was 32 years old, and it was interesting. But Mark gets hurt in the game against Cincinnati, and he gets hurt in the first, second quarter. So I end up playing the rest of the game. We end up winning the game. I play really well. And Stink looked at me. He goes, "Dude," he goes, "you don't even know how well you played." He goes, "Guys don't come in and play that well." And I said, "Oh yeah, I was a little hyped up, I was a little nervous." And again, I just didn't want to let my team down.
That's right.
That's what really motivated me. And so the following week, when I get the first start against the Vikings on national TV, it was again billed as the biggest mismatch in the NFL that week. And they interviewed, the broadcast crew interviewed me the night before.
Yep.
And they're sitting there going, looking at my bio. Well, you've been cut 6 times? I mean, what are you doing? How did you get here, kind of thing? And I go, well, I don't know that much. I go, what I can tell you is that he's going to get everything I got.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give everything I got. Because, I don't want to let my team down. And so we go the next day, and we end up, had a hard time getting to the stadium. It's snowing in Minnesota. I'm nervous. Stink is laughing. We're in meetings that night. He's like eating popcorn because he's not playing the next day. And the amount of pressure the night before an NFL game is incredible because there's not too many things. And you talk about baseball, basketball, maybe a little bit hockey, where you have the chance of physically getting your ass kicked on national television. And football gives you that ability. And so that tends to make you a little more nervous. Boxing, the same thing. You know, you have a chance of getting knocked out or physically getting your ass kicked in front of everybody. And so that's the difference in football. That's why guys want to puke and throw up before game sometimes, because it's that it's that possibility, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget. So
the unknown.
The unknown, right? That's what brings out the best in you.
That's right.
Not knowing. Oh. You're about to find out one way or the other, right? And I'll never forget. So John Randall, the great player and Hall of Famer that he is. First of all, I walk in the meeting that week, and our offensive line coach, legendary Alex Gibbs, said, "Doc, this is a privilege. It's going to be an honor for you to play against him. He's going to know everything about you. He's got every move in the book, and he's got a motor that doesn't stop." I said, "Okay, great. So what's the plan?" And so we ended up going through that, and he was a famous shit talker, right? He'd do research on you and talk back. And so we're out there before the national anthem. He has his helmet in his mouth, face painted, and he's dueling his pistols at me. I'm going, UMF. Oh my, I couldn't believe it. I go, I am going to kick your ass, you know? And so we go out there the first play, and I've got some great players around me, right? Gary Zimmerman, left tackle, Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Tommy Nalen should be in the Hall of Fame. Played 14 years for the Broncos. Unbelievable player. 6th-round draft pick out of Boston College. Just tough as nails. And so we're running outside zones, what we did in Denver, right? That was made us famous, right? We're zone blocking, right? Outside zone. We got athletic, tough, smart players. And so we run right at John Randall, right? And I come flying off the ball, and he's talking. He goes, "I don't even know who you are." You know, so I'm just sitting there going, "I can't believe this." At the end of the play, I just start swinging, going crazy. And I'm like hyperventilating. I come back to the huddle, and I look in the huddle, and I go, "Well, boys, I think I may have just pissed him off." You know, which is not a good thing because he was a great player.
Sure.
But we end up going on and winning the game. Eddie McCaffrey in the end zone, 2-minute offense. John Elway, who I grew up playing, now I'm part of the 2-minute comeback victory. We win the game, and I can't even tell you how happy I was after that game. Not with my performance, because I didn't let my team down. Like I wanted to play well for us, for what we were on our way to do that year, you know. And I'll never forget Gary Kubiak looking. He goes, "You don't understand how well you just played right there." You know, and I felt good about it. And staying consular with my teammates and winning the game and being a part of that. Now, am I a better football player than John Randall? Absolutely not. He is a great player. I was a good player, but a great teammate.
That's right.
And I had great players around me. And so I always tell people, you could do anything you want in life, any goal. I'm not even supposed to be there, right? But if you're attached to something bigger than you, right, it can't be just about you. Whether your family, I always thought about my kids that weren't born, my faith. So you got to be tied to something bigger than you, right? And then you have to have a plan. You have to plan. You have to have a plan on how you're going to go about accomplishing your goal.
Wow. And
we had a great plan. We were sliding to him. We knew where he was. I had an incredible plan. And then you have to seek the help of others, right? Anything you ever do great in your life is never for yourself or by yourself.
That's right.
And that's a thing that football has taught me, and I've been able to think about and study, because I've done a lot of studying and reading on taking courses on motivation and achievement and the psychology of it. It's my background, studies and behavior. Because one, I had a lot of things I had to figure out personally. And then two, I just always wanted to understand that motivation, that achievement aspect of what gets people to do more than they should be physically capable of doing. And so I always think about that and why that game symbolized that process for me and really our team. I was attached to something bigger than me. We had a plan, and I was seeking the help of others, because the greatest things you do in your life are never for yourself or by yourself.
That's right. That's right.
And football epitomizes that,
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. Well, there's not many things in life you can do greater than make somebody feel or perform or do something better than they currently do it, right? So like being a great teammate is no different than being a great brother or a great spouse or a great friend. It's a supporting role, but you're doing something. The cool thing about being a teammate is you're doing something that you accomplish only as a team together, right? And I bet there's not one guy out there that would trade an MVP or something else that they would hold rather than have a Super Bowl ring. You know, just like I don't think there's a guy out there that would trade a home run crown for a World Series or that wouldn't trade a home run crown for a World Series ring.
Yeah.
You want that Super Bowl ring. That's the what's that line in that movie Draft Day where they think it's funny that the manliest sport out there epitomizes success with the ring. You know,
there it is.
That's right.
There's one of them right there.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Well,
I tell you, I got an interesting story for you too. That was
come on.
That is really interesting. That really kind of epitomizes our team and then our offensive line. We were such a close knit group. You know, we wouldn't talk to the media back then. They didn't force you to until the Super Bowl, and we kind of started that whole thing. They threatened to fine us, and we had our fine board and all those things. And, I ended up in '96 starting 7 or 8 games, and '97 our Super Bowl year too. I started about half the games, but I remember when I went into play for Stink, Mark Flair. First of all, you think about competing with people or trying to take someone's job. We never looked at it that way. We would practice together and work on technique after practice together, watch each other when we were playing, Mark and I. Hey, how was that step? Hey, watch this as we're studying opponents and film. And it was always to enhance the team and to help each other play better or get better. And after I ended up starting a few games for him, he was one to tell me, he goes, you played unbelievably well. And how many guys – and I would practice for him when he couldn't play. He couldn't practice during the week to play on Sunday, but I would take his reps. I'd take all my reps, and I did it willingly.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it because he's my brother.
That's right.
Right? And I wanted to make sure he could play on Sunday. And when he couldn't play, I played to the best of my ability. And so well, in fact, he even told Mike when he came back, hey, if you think Doc deserves a start, I understand he's played well. But my value to the team was I could play all 3 inside positions.
That's right.
And not everybody could do that at a high level.
That's right.
But that's the kind of unselfishness that we had as teammates. And he would affectionately call me a stunt guard because it's kind of like a stunt double in the movies, right?
Yes,
so
right.
I'd take the crash and the wrecks during practice because that's how I had to make my name on the team. Was I made sure that no one outworked me, and I became known for that. And I would do our individual drills, and I'd go full speed and play the defensive side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball. And our offensive line coach would I know he was trying to break me, and he tried to run me out of town my first day there.
Yeah.
And I loved him. He undressed me, and I've never been yanked out of a drill since I was 10 years old until I got to Denver, my very first mini camp. I forget what I messed up, but he ripped me up and down. You MF-er, Mexican burrito eating, just undressing me.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm just sitting there, he yanked me out of the drill. I'm just sitting there going, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm either going to kill this guy or they're going to cut me.
Yeah.
And I remember going home, calling my wife then, and I'm sitting there going, I don't know how. I've never had this happen before in my life. I have never been pulled out of drill. But he was testing me. How bad did I want it?
That's right.
And it turned out I wanted it pretty bad because I became one of his favorite players. And until the day he died, I was one of his favorite guys. And he passed away a year ago. And so, but I was able to be close to him when he was here, and I'd be the guy to go pick guys up at the airport, bring my teammates in to see them, and we sit down and talk and visit. So it was really a great time. But that guy is the toughest, smartest, best teacher I'd ever been around. But he tried to break me, and when he couldn't, I became his favorite.
That's right.
Because I probably reminded him a little bit. He was Cherokee Indian, part Indian anyways. He said he'd sneak into our room and gouge our eyes out with his thumbs at night, and he pushed us to the limit, but he pushed us to be great. And we were great. And I was part of a great team with one of the greatest offensive lines in the history of the NFL. And I take a lot of pride in that.
Well, he didn't have to. And people got to remember too, like when somebody's riding you hard, it's because they expect a lot, but like that's effort on their end. It takes their time and their emotions and everything. Like he had to physically do. That's right. He had to physically do that. So, and another thing too, like, I say it a lot outside of Jesus. I think the Lord's greatest gift on this earth is a child, right? But right behind that is a great teammate. Because like I tell my wife all the time, there's guys I haven't seen or spoken to in 15 years. But if they popped in town tomorrow, I would be seeing them, you know what I mean? Cause we're brothers. When you're a teammate, you're forever a teammate. And it's a forever bond. That's such a great gift that if you don't do sports, you don't get to experience that.
Yeah. And it's funny. I always ask people, boy, how did you not quit? And believe me, there are many times when I thought, what am I doing? Well, I had plenty of doubt.
That's right.
Plenty of fear. But what I learned along the way is I never let that become my predominant way of thinking. It's okay to have those feelings. Everyone has them.
That's right.
You just can't let them stay there.
That's right.
And you can't let them become your predominant way of thinking.
It's just
so when you start looking at, and when you start looking at obstacles and obstructions and getting cut that many times or whatever it is you're encountering, you have to realize, and as you mature and as you gain perspective on things, realize that those things are really there for your benefit. God puts them there for your benefit. God made the adversary, so it's there for our benefit.
That's right.
It's to make us stronger and wiser, right? And so once you begin to see it, but that requires faith. Going, wow, this is pretty gnarly right now.
That's right.
I don't know what's going on, and feels like the world's crumbling around me, but I know you won't ever give me something I cannot handle. It's got to be there for my benefit. So what's the lesson? How do I find it? How do I ride it? And that requires faith. No, I know it's going to be all right. It sucks right now.
That's right.
And I'm not saying it doesn't. And I'm not saying I didn't think about quitting. But I never let it become my predominant way of thinking. And that for that much I'm grateful, because I've got some scars. I've got some bruises. But I've also got amazing. And people always say the Super Bowl rings are great, but it's not the ring that's great. It's what the ring symbolizes.
That's right.
It's the relationships you have. You talk to anybody, Nick, you know this. What you miss the most about the game is the locker room.
That's right.
Is your buddies, your comrades, right? The guys that you're in training camp with. Misery loves company.
That's right.
You're playing cards late at night. When you're limping on your way after meetings to go to bed and you think you're going to die. Or you're going out and having a couple beers and enjoying each other in practice because you're building your camaraderie, right?
That's right.
And so it's those things that make the ring special, is what it stands for. And it's a group of unselfish guys that cared more about the goal than they did about themselves. And that's what special things happen.
Man, like how cool is this that I get to hang around and just listen to a guy like you tell stories like this. This is incredible, man. This is absolutely incredible. The Lord has blessed old Nick today, hasn't he? Like, this is so cool. Well, brother, like,
I enjoy sharing my time with you too. It's been a lot of fun. I like it.
Well,
I like
man,
where you're coming from.
It's like, well, it's just, you mentioned the naysayers, right? So, David, my wife and I have helped over 100 individuals launch a business of some sort. All right, and what we have found is a couple of things that we've learned along the way. One, what they believe is fact, right? So the ones that didn't expect to win didn't. All right, and we just misread them, and we maybe shouldn't have tried to get them to the place where they got to when they failed. And everybody that did succeed expected to a certain time, or they learned to believe in themselves, right? So, but another thing that we learned is your habitat has a lot to do with how you feel and how you think, right? So, like, dude, when you get cut that many times, that you got the whole world and ESPN and everybody, the media, talking about how you can't do it. So how did you mentally overcome like that? Because those voices are loud. Those voices are extremely loud. So like for me, I had to make my purpose greater than my problems, right? And I was always looking for a hand up rather than a hand out. You know what I mean? So, and Mike Shanahan gave you a hand up. It sounds like to me, right? He gave you a hand up. So, but how did you overcome all those naysayers? I can tell you, I bet I can tell this. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. You made that call to your mama, and it choked you up a little bit. Your mama was never one of those naysayers.
Never. she was, even she made going to visit my dad in prison fun.
Wow. Wow. Like, it's so hard for as a parent. I have kids. I have a 13-year-old and my daughter just turned 1 in April, right? And I can remember being a young dad with my son. I didn't want him. I remember the first time he was learning to walk, and I'll never forget. I could go to the same spot where it happened when he was walking and fell down and scraped his knee for the first time on the concrete, walking down the sidewalk at the little apartment we lived at back then. And I remember it tore me up to see him do that. I remember the first time that he wrecked his bicycle, and dude, like you talk about road rash, it was everywhere. My wife and I both agreed our job was to make sure he got back on the bike right when that happened. It wasn't to keep him from falling. It was to prepare him that you will fail, you will fall, accidents happen, but my job as a parent is to make sure he gets back up, to make sure he never stays down and he always gets back up, right? Like that's your life story. That's literally your life story.
Wow, I can't believe you just used that analogy, because I was talking to a counselor once and talking about parents and parenting, and sometimes as parents we love so much, we care so much, that when our child falls and scrapes their knee on the pavement, our first reaction and instincts are to go up and take care of them and take away their pain.
That's right.
Because it also takes away our pain. But really our job is not to take away their pain. It's to teach them how to deal with their own pain.
That's right.
That's your job as a parent. My mom understood that. She said, your circumstances never define you.
Oh.
She was always about what could be, and whatever you want. I mean, she ingrained that in us as kids. And where did the resilience come from? I always understood. And I had a lot of people tell me along the way, especially when I started coaching, hey, man, you went farther than most. You've done a great job. Why don't you hang it up? Or gosh, you've been through this so much, and at some point I knew I could play. I knew I could start. Like I knew I did, but at some point you probably shouldn't verbalize it too much except for yourself. People start to look at you funny, like this guy really is crazy. and I was crazy, but I was crazy in love with my goal, with my passion to play in the National Football League. I was going to go until I couldn't go anymore.
Yeah.
And so, because it's my dream, not their dream. And so that's what allows you to tune out the noise. But it also required me, what people don't realize is, I always look at when I talk to, young people especially, or even adults when I'm giving talks, it's, people think they see 2 Super Bowl rings, they think you've had nothing but success.
Yeah.
And it could be farther from the truth. But what it did teach me was how to persevere, how to push through, how to constantly, and never blaming anybody else for my results. That's when I said it's an inside-out job, not an outside-in job.
Oh.
I never blamed anybody else for me getting cut. I looked at myself and I figured, man, how could I break my ankle playing basketball? How could I get hurt? And I'm thinking, am I self-sabotaging myself? I mean, all these things go through my mind. I just goes, no, as long as I continue to work, and I love to train. But what people didn't see is my workout partner in San Jose that we worked in the title insurance industry together. We were title reps. We'd train at 5:30 in the morning. We would run at the track at night after working all day. And if I didn't feel like running, I go, hey, KB, I don't feel like running that day. You know what he'd do? He'd meet me down there. He may not run with me, but I was there, and he was there. And people don't see all those times when you're training behind the scenes and working hard and working full time. But I know as long as I kept on doing that, I was getting closer than farther away from my goal.
That's right.
And the whole idea of approximation, learning ways to, it's tough enough out there. Give yourself a break. Stop kicking yourself in between the ears, and don't be a blowhard of these guys out there just rah, rah, rah. It's about consistency. It's about taking small steps forward. It's about doing the quiet work, not just the loud work when no one else is around. And I think I learned how to do that, and I'm still learning how to do it. I tell my kids today, you think I have it all figured out? I still don't have it figured out.
That's right.
I'm still learning and growing. And it's just applying to different ideas. Can you take these same principles and apply it to the business world, to your personal social network, and in your own family structure? And it's not always easy. But find little ways to win and find gratitude. Everyone always say, you've heard a lot of people say, I always looked at my glasses half full, right? And some people said, oh, it's not half full. And I have all different ways of looking at some of those old sayings that we've all heard over the years, which is fine. People have different takes on things, but I always think there's two things when I think about the half is the glass is half full, is perspective.
That's right.
It gives you a sense of perspective of being grateful. One is gratitude, really. I'm grateful for being half full. I'm grateful for the things. It may not be all the way full, but there are so many things you have to be grateful for on a daily basis.
That's
right. It's a
right.
matter of focusing on that thing. Amazing what that shift will do to your mental attitude.
Unbelievable.
Because when you're talking about thinking, I was talking about champions think differently.
That's right.
They have a different mindset. You have to win in your mind before you win on the field or the boardroom.
That's right.
You have to expect good things to happen. You have to understand the obstacles and instructions are temporary circumstances.
That's right.
They don't define who you are or what you are. They're
right.
there for your benefits, make you stronger and wiser.
That's right.
And so you start beginning that way. You start realizing there's a way of thinking that will help you move forward instead of backwards.
Opportunities.
And we're all trying to find it, and we all need to be reminded of it.
That's right.
I mean, that's why I love talking to you. It's like yeah, that's right. I got to get back to that.
That's right.
It's those things. And that's why I enjoy sharing some of my experiences with people like you and your audience.
Well, opportunities don't happen; we create them, right? And but like, it's amazing to me how many people that we come across. All right, so I'm raising kids, right? And I've said this before many times, actually, that if your kid is getting into trouble because he or she is hanging out with somebody that gets in trouble all the time, you tell your kid, hey, man, like maybe you shouldn't hang out with them, or you can't hang out with them anymore because they're getting you into trouble. At some point, like the same parent that is telling their kid that doesn't listen to their own voice, take their own advice. They're not auditing their habitat and their circles. And every great high achiever of any kind, when they get put in the Hall of Fame or they get interviewed or whatever, they always will be like, I had this great support system at home. You said it earlier. You needed your family to say, hey, keep going. Keep going. I'm the same way, man. Like I need to know that my wife believes in what it is that I'm getting up to do every day. And that's not a flaw. And that's not I'm not weak for needing that. It does me good. Like that, like I believe in myself more because of my circles. My circles believe in me, and I want to surround myself with those people. Right. And you control that. You control who you hang around. Right. But for whatever reason, enough people don't audit that or pay attention to that on a regular basis. Like I have people that walk in and be like, I want to make $1 million. And every single person they spend every minute with makes 40. How's that going to work? Like if you're going to do what they do, why would you expect different results? You know what I mean? So
right. How
are you able to protect? Because you got all these people telling you can't, or telling you, hey man, you're not our fit for us this year. How are you able to control that and keep moving forward? Because like, dude, if you had kept going after getting cut 2 or 3 times, that's awesome. You know what I mean?
How the hell did you keep going after being cut 6 to 8 times?
Oh, dude, you're the definition of persistence. So, it's a running joke around here. I asked my wife out on our first date in like 2001. I got my first date in 2007. You know what I mean? So, like, it was. I think I just wore her out. I think she finally yeah.
Not only you're persistent, you're an overachiever too.
That's right. That gets a hit for sure. Well, talk to me about how important that was, because, like, again, I know you had support at home. I could tell when you just talked about your family and everything else. They believed in you, and you can always tell who your biggest supporters are, because those are the people that you call first when the great moment happens.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I often look back on it and wonder how I did it too. But I guess one of the benefits I had is, as much as I wanted to play and quote unquote make it in the NFL, I was always like, I was working outside of football, so I was still progressing. I went back and got my degree. I finished school. I did the things that you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why people tell you to do those things, because they'll always help you. They'll never hurt you.
That's right.
The things that you're supposed to do, things you need to check down your list, and then for me it was, because I'm telling you, when someone tells you you're not good enough, or they don't have room for you, it hurts.
Yeah.
But it also taught me, okay, what am I going to do about it? And so what I looked at too was, one, we talked about approximation, and two, so finding little ways to win, right? Stack wins
Momentum
on a daily basis to get you closer to your goal, instead of just saying, I want to play in the NFL. Well, what does that look like? People talk about these days reverse engineering. That's always made a lot of sense to me before that term has been coined. I think I was doing that every day, so I didn't make progress. I had to make advances physically. I had to keep on getting better. I had to find ways to play. I was fortunate to play in all these other leagues.
That's right.
I never said no to a job.
That's right.
Because I wanted to play. I knew as long as I was playing, I could always get better. And so when the moment came, it wasn't too big for me because I've been playing my whole life.
That's right.
I was ready for the moment. I didn't care whether it was against John Randall or against some guy from the Frankfurt Galaxy or whatever. It was the game. It's me. It's you versus someone else. It's the team that you have around you. It's how do you fit in that scheme? What kind of teammate are you? What kind of leader are you? And I've been a leader my whole life. And it used to get me in trouble when I was a kid.
Right.
And I remember telling my mom, I don't want to be a leader. The only thing it does is get me in trouble, right? But it's really come back to serve me well, because not so much is about me being a leader, but being able to influence people in a positive manner.
That's right.
And to me, that's how I look at leadership. It's not an ego thing. And you see so many guys these days that are barking and yelling about how great they are and how hard they work and everything else. But it's really how can I influence someone else and share my experience with them, not tell them about my experience, share it with them, because we all know what it feels like to not be good enough sometimes.
That's right.
And it's okay, because it doesn't mean circumstances are temporary. I knew that I wasn't going to be cut for my whole life. I knew that I was going to make it. I knew that if I kept on working, I could continue to get better. And if you get better, you have a chance to accomplish what you want to do. And so that was just something I just realized, that doubt and that rejection, or that feeling of being rejected, told you not good enough, was temporary.
That's right.
How do I create value now is what I started to look at. How do I create value? I have to create more value. I never want to be an outside-in job. How can I create more value? How can I create more value from myself and my team, in my company, in my job, in my life, in my family, where I become invaluable, right? They can't do it without me. I'm critical.
Man.
I want to be that person in that spot.
That's right.
Want to put that pressure on me. Put it on me. I've put the work in. I've done the time. I have the confidence, not just to be my teammate, and that I will die before I don't make it. And you will get the best of me. And if I get my ass kicked, so be it. That's the price of being the man in the arena, right?
That's right.
And people that don't get it, those are timid souls that don't want to walk between the white lines.
That's right.
And risk failing and risk getting your ass kicked in front. It's happened to all of us.
That's right.
If it hasn't, then you haven't really lived.
Nobody's undefeated.
Nobody is. And no one can play forever. The game ends for everybody. So it can't be just about the game. The game's just part of you.
Yep.
And I'm very grateful for the things it taught me, the experience that it gave me and my family, the people I've been able to share that with, and continue to share it with at this day and age, of just knowing what it means to be a good teammate.
That's right.
Right? That's important.
That's right.
And if you go through all those years and you win Super Bowls, but you don't have the relationships or the experiences, what good was it?
That's right. That's
not very good.
That's exactly right.
The ring isn't about the diamonds in this. It's not what makes us valuable.
That's right.
It's a different kind of diamonds, and now they're getting bigger and more fantastic. It's not about that. It's about what that ring symbolizes.
That's
right. I think I've understood that for a long time, and I'm grateful for that, because I cherish the time that I had in the National Football League. I've been fortunate. Football has been a big part of my life. Look, I played it since I was 10 years old. I retired when I was 38. I've called games on ESPN and on radio. I've done sports talk radio. I've been able to coach in the NFL. It's been a big part of my life. It's been a part of my life. It is not my life. It doesn't define me. It's helped define me.
That's right.
And helped define who I am and what I am, but it's never been who I am, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. You couldn't have said it any better, man. Well, folks, we're chatting with David Diaz-Infante, the great David Diaz-Infante, the NFL great, two-time Super Bowl champion. You can check him out on Instagram at D Diaz-Infante and on Twitter at DDI63. We've been hearing a lot about his, he's been dropping truth bombs for the better part of an hour here. He's been freaking killing it. And now we've heard about his journey to the mecca of the NFL and winning some Super Bowls. It was a totally different journey than it's very unique. It's one of a kind.
Hard time keeping track of it, Nick.
Man, one of a kind. And it's crazy because there's two things that you were talking about. One about leadership and like leadership's for everybody. Like if you ever said, "Hey man, go over there and try that chocolate ice cream cone. It's the best in town." You led them there to do that, right? So leadership's for everybody. Embrace the role. That's what we say around here all the time. And then the other thing, the other thing besides leadership, and there's so much that we've been talking about here. Honestly, there's so much I want to talk to you about that I'm having a hard time keeping up what's going on in my own mind. But we've talked about habitats. We've talked about being a great teammate and overcoming all these things. Like every single person, overcoming is what it is, right? So every single person, not one person, when they were learning to walk, stood up and just took them steps and it happened for them the first time. Every single person that walks upright today overcame failure over and over and over again until they didn't anymore, right? And so it's in everybody. It's in everybody. We've all been there and done that. As a matter of fact, a lot of the things that we do, like tying tennis shoes, tying shoelaces, it didn't happen properly the first time, and we definitely didn't quit. I don't see a whole bunch of adults crawling around on the sidewalk out there because they gave up on walking. You know what I mean?
You are so right in saying that, and I think we forget some of that. We think I know how to tie my shoe. I've always known how to tie my shoe. There was a time when you didn't know how to tie your shoe.
That's right.
But you start to forget that. It's important to remember that, and I think having kids is the reason why it's the closest thing there is to being like God, right?
That's right.
It's to know what it's like to be a parent, that kind of love, and to think that His love is even greater than that just blows me away at times. You think about how much you love your children and what you do for them, right? And so you begin to fathom and appreciate, wow. And I try to share that with my kids. And I've got a great story I want to share with you about when my son was 2 years old.
Please.
I used to come home from practice, and I'd come home from practice tired, and we'd always be on the living room floor, and I would play with him. And like we would have a ball, right? And he would crawl over me, he would crawl under me, he would wait till I was distracted, he would just never stop, right? I may be doing something with training, I might get distracted, but he was never distracted. And it's so funny, and when it says be childlike in pursuit of the Lord, or be childlike in pursuit of your life too, is really what I think that means.
Yes.
Is that our true nature is that of a 2-year-old.
There it is.
He never counted how many times he failed. He didn't count how many times I took the ball away. He didn't count how many times he didn't make it to the ball, or he dropped the ball, or the ball was beyond his reach. He didn't care what anybody else thought.
That's right.
And that's who we truly are. The world tries to take that away from us. And that is our job, is to hold on to that. And it's hard. It's difficult because the world's slanted a totally different direction.
That's right.
But that's our true nature. That's how God made us.
That's right.
And I've written letters to our kids before, and I always embodied those elements to them. It's like, that's our true nature. Don't ever forget that.
That's right.
That's who God made us to be. All that other stuff, that's just all junk from the world. I mean, it's hard because there's so much of it. We're surrounded by it, and we're all engulfed in it at times. And it's okay to not be there. If you're not there, just get back there.
That's right.
Guilt doesn't come from God. Guilt doesn't come from anything. So if you're not there, just get back there. Get back to being childlike in pursuit of what you want.
That's right.
It's okay. Who cares if you didn't make it? Let's do it tomorrow. Do it again. Do it so many times they forget that they threw the ball again.
That's
Next
right.
you know, you're running down the street and you're scoring a touchdown. You know, and so I just that analogy has always stuck with me. Is a 2-year-old crawling up and down over my body, through my legs, over my shoulders, wait until I was distracted doing. All he wanted was the ball. That's all he knew,
and
nothing else mattered. He didn't count. He didn't
That's
care
right.
what anybody else said. He didn't care if someone else said, "Oh, you didn't get the ball. You didn't know you're a loser, right?" Or none of that stuff exists in the mind. And so to be pure like that, I think we all need a little bit more of that in our lives. And I know I do, and I have to remind myself of that a lot to be that way, because it's gonna be all right.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Faith.
All pressure.
I mean, I like where I'm at right now, but I don't have to be there any longer. I have to.
That's right. It's just today, and all pressure, all nerves, all limits, all anxiety is self-inflicted, right? So I tell my son all the time. I'm always telling him to push your limits, and it took him a while. I said it over and over again until one day he said, "What does that mean?" I was like, "Well, push your limits because you're the one that set them, right? Nobody set them but you." And I learned that that came a profound statement to me back when in the 90s when I was playing ball. Baseball players weren't supposed to work out heavy, right?
Especially back then, right?
Yeah, it was a very untrue statement. That's right. And the tighter I got, the better I got. It's funny how that worked, right? But I didn't get tight. But either way, they were like, you shouldn't lift heavy. So finally, one day I asked him, like, well, what is heavy? It's a reference, right? And because a trainer walked in, he was like, "Hey man, you shouldn't bench that much." And I was actually warming up. I was warming up at 225 on the bench. He's like, "You shouldn't lift that much." Right. I'm like, "Why? I can do it 35 times. Like, what's the problem?" Yeah. And he was like, "Oh, it's so like heavy is a reference." So when they would make statements like that, they were talking about a reference. And you know what? Something's only heavy until you lift something heavier, and then what was heavy is no longer heavy anymore. Just like playing against a college opponent versus a pro opponent. It's night and day, man, difference, right? So, like a lot of people, a lot of folks out there, they've created these limits within their mind, and then they never push those because once you get to the next place, what was your limit prior is no longer there anymore. You've defeated it. You overcame it. You only overcome it by extending, right? By pushing yourself to the next place.
Yeah, it's interesting, and the great thing about resistance training and you have to remind yourself too, is it's not the lifting of the heavy weights that gets you stronger. It's the recovery and repair.
That's right.
Of what you're doing. So that's really important. But yeah, I was a grinder like that. I love training, love working out. I love that whole thing because I think it helps me mentally as much as it does physically.
Man,
to do something like that, to work hard, to strain, right? And the other thing is we talk about the pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
I always tell my kids, hey, we love pressure. That's that feeling in your stomach.
Yeah,
man,
it's a rush.
Yeah, you're gonna want that. I go, and that's your body telling you that you're ready.
That's right.
So when you learn to reframe things in your own mind, you learn some of those. And they're all skills, right? You can learn them. How to reframe things, how to retrain your thinking, how to put things in its proper slot of what it is, what it isn't.
That's right.
And so much of what we create is in our own mind. And so if that is true, why not create the positive things, the positive habits, rather than the negative ones, and diminish those and try to eliminate or limit the effect they have on you, or limit the time you allow them to affect you, because they're real too.
That's right.
But you don't have to stay there. That's the only thing. That's where the choice comes in. And you get to choose that, how long it is. And it serves a purpose though too, because something affected you.
That's right.
Something there. Like emotional trauma is just as real as physical trauma.
That's right.
And there's a real neurological pathway that goes along with that. That becomes very real. And if you're not careful, that same thing that proved to be a benefit to get you out of a situation, if you're no longer in that situation, but you're still in that neurological pathway, it now becomes a detriment. The very thing that saves your life.
That's right.
That protects your mind, that protects your body through the trauma or whatever it is, becomes a detriment when it's no longer needed. So learning to train your mind, how you breathe, what you do, and how long you allow things to affect you. And if you can't, talk to someone. There's people out there that are there to help you get unstuck. And that's okay, because we're all trying to figure that out.
That's right.
And remember, God didn't make us that way. The world tries to put that on you.
That's right.
And be childlike and be pliable, right? and sometimes I'm guilty as anybody in that, but I try not to stay there. I try not to live there.
That's right.
And that's okay. That's what it is, right?
That's right.
And that's what we talked about faith. That no things are going to be all right. I expect better things to get better.
That's right.
I expect good things to happen because I'm going to put the work in because I'm willing to do some things other people aren't willing to do. And so that's what makes it fun and exciting. And then enjoying people. I've become a little more discriminating. I don't like being around people I don't like to be around because there's energy drainers and energy enhancers. I'd rather be around energy enhancers than I would with people who they're trying to take you down and trying to make everyone else miserable around them. It's like,
that's right.
Look, hey, I love you, but I don't have time for that. If you want help, if you want to be positive, you want to be around it, you want to contribute to it, love it. If not, it's not for me. Or or morals and values don't match.
That's right.
And that's important, to be discriminating.
That's right.
To use judgment, to not to be judging.
That's
that makes sense?
You have to surround. You have to
and
surround
judging
yourself.
are two different things.
That's right. You have to surround yourself with people that are gonna. If you have goals and destinations that you want to achieve and get to in life, you have to surround yourself with people that are going that same direction or going to help you get there, or else you're not going to get there. Right. So it's amazing. I've been roasted online for saying that before. Like I have friends and family that I know and love, I grew up with, that I just don't get to see as much anymore. It's by choice because I work a lot. I'm very ambitious, and I spend all my spare time with my family. And and a select number of friends. And it's nothing against the friends that I can't hang out with anymore. I just can't hang out with them right now because they're going this way and I'm going that way. It just is what it is, So that's what we're talking about, that habitat and the naysayers and everything. So, those people are either going to help you get where you're going, or those people are either going to get you where you're going or not. It's pretty black and white to a certain degree, and you have to audit your circles.
Yeah, there's certainly amount of truth to that for sure. And it's also the choice of whether I want to encourage people or discourage people too. Look, if you want to hang out with me, man, I want to bring the energy. I want to have a good time. I want you to benefit from being a friend of mine.
That's so good, yeah.
And I'm looking to build you up, not break you down. But don't bring me down.
That's right.
Don't bring me down. And then if you do, that's my fault for allowing that to happen. People only do things to you that you allow them to.
That's right.
I've understood that since a pretty young age. And if someone's doing something that you don't like, you have an obligation to tell them. Because if you don't tell them, it's your problem. Once you tell them, it's now their problem.
That's right.
And I'm very direct that way because I don't want to waste time. I want to help you do what you want to do. Like there's enough pie for everybody.
That's
you
right.
either come from scarcity or abundance, right?
That's right.
And I've always been a person of abundance. And I get that from my mom. There was always enough for everybody. We'd always have people over, even though we didn't have that much. Man. And there was always enough, and it always tasted great. And there was more love than we may not have had everything, but we were lacking nothing.
That's right.
And so there's always enough love in the world, and there's always enough love, in your circles. And then when you come from there, that's what gives you the strength to say no, is because I love you, but I got to tell you what's on my mind.
That's right.
I owe you that, and you owe me that too.
That's right.
Otherwise, we're wasting each other's time.
So, I could talk to you all day long, but I know you got other things that you got to get to, man. So, but I have to talk to you a little bit about one of the hardest things that I ever figured out was who I was after baseball. Right, and you mentioned before that you've been the voice of the Denver Broncos color analyst. You've been on you had a radio show. You're a two-time Hall of Famer, guys. We got to mention too, from San Jose State Sports Hall of Fame and Bellarmine College Prep Hall of Fame. Incredible, but like reinventing yourself. So now you have your Champions Marketing, right? Champions Marketing, still involved in football. You're tearing it up in the business world now. How did you, talk to me about the process from NFL player, football player to now kick-ass businessman?
Well, first of all, I've had my ass kicked on the field and off the field, right, in the business world and the NFL. But that's okay because again, it's all about learning, right?
That's right.
But one thing I have learned, and I think I'm actually, I'm no longer coaching right now. I've been out for a year and a half, so it's another transition. That's what I tell my kids. I go, oh, look, I'm still trying to figure it out. But the one thing I do know is I like to solve problems and I like to build relationships. I've been fortunate enough to build and have a lot of good relationships with a lot of people that have been very successful too. And so combining those things has been kind of fruitful for me, especially lately in terms of what I'm doing. In terms, got my insurance license and started to do some of that, and then we're doing some of the digital marketing and doing payment processing solutions, finding out that people I know, how do we solve problems, how do we attack problems, and then it's okay to make money off that.
That's right.
Providing solutions for people, off relationships, because people trust you and believe in you, and you have a solution to one of their problems. That's a great way to do business.
That's right.
And so I've benefited from that lately, and benefited from right now as I continue to grow in everything that I'm doing in terms of events and ticketing. And it's all kind of like the digital marketing and payment processing kind of world that I think is really interesting because it's changing so rapidly, and how we do business. But, how do you solve problems? How do you save people money? And how do you bring benefit, right?
That's right.
And if you do those things, then it's natural for you to want to do business with people. And as much as people want to talk to me, I like talking to people about, so, hey, what do you do? What's your business? What are your challenges? And by asking questions and engaging, you have a real conversation. Yep. And then you happen to come upon solutions. And if you have a solution to their problem, why wouldn't you want to do business with them? Or why wouldn't they want to do business with you?
That's right.
And so that's when it's fun, because now you're partnering in business instead of selling somebody something.
That's right.
Or trying to take something from somebody. You're partnering with them to create a solution, and everyone benefits.
That's right. Everybody would agree you feel good when you do a good deed or a solid, right? And
yeah,
and
it's okay to make money doing it.
That's as a matter of fact, the money's better. Yeah. It feels like cleaner money, like
absolutely.
And
because
and money brings out the best in people, and it brings out the worst. It just amplifies who you are, right? Who you really are. So
I try to show my kids money's a tool.
That's right.
That's all it is.
There it is.
You can't ever fall in love with the money. Having a nice car is great, but it's nothing but a car.
That's right.
Don't ever think it's anything more than a car.
That's right.
Or the money. The things you could do and provide for your family is important. But you can't fall in love with the money. All it is a tool. It's just something nice things are nice, but don't believe in the things.
That's right.
They're just things, and that's, and sometimes it's a little contrarian to what the world tries to show us, social media and nice cars and everything's super slick and everything like that, which is cool. That you can make money doing that and you're influencing people and everything else, but just don't think that really matters that much.
That's right.
Money's a tool, and it can provide for your family and build a legacy for you and your family and leave them better off than maybe you were. And I think that's an honorable thing. But I'd much rather, I'd love to, it's no good without the love.
Oh man.
I always tell people, people say, oh, it must have been tough growing up, on welfare. And I know what it's like to feel different than someone.
That's
when you
right.
pay for something with food stamps and other people are using money and people look at you funny. I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Right. But I also know that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. Only thing that matters is what do you want? How bad do you want it? What are you willing to do or not do to get it? Because those things are really important. And your circumstances don't define who you can or will be in the future, but it has to start today.
That's right, man. That's so good. Well, David, is there anything else that you want to talk about or leave our listeners with as we kind of bring things to a close today? Anything else?
I just really enjoyed talking. I enjoyed the conversation. I love where it goes. It's a great reminder for me every time I share some of my experiences of where I need to be and my why, right?
That's right.
You know, your purpose, vision, and goal, right? Your purpose has to be bigger than your problems. I couldn't agree with you more than that. And I think it's important that, look, I'm not there all the time. I still don't have it all figured out. I share that with my kids all the time. I go, but I'm having fun trying, and I'm going to enjoy the ride. Otherwise, what good is it? I'm not one of those guys, I'm going to wait until I retire. Shoot, I've been having fun my whole life.
That's right.
I'm enjoying the ride, and it's been gnarly at times, and it's been fun as heck, and I'm grateful as hell.
Yep, and you've totally learned to live in the moment, man. Which is, my wife says,
we have is now. All we have is now.
My wife says I struggle with that. Derek Jeter talked about it in his documentary about how he was always didn't take much time to celebrate today because he was always looking for the next thing that next goal, the next thing they had to do. And that's something I'm working on every single day is being in the moment, right? So I was really, again, this is episode number 50. This is a milestone episode for the show. We're just getting started, but like I'm enjoying this moment. I'm living in this moment right now. I'm present in the moment, and it's fantastic. I'm going to try it more often.
Yeah, I'm honored to be number 50, and I'm honored to be on the show. It's been really nice sharing ideas with each other and reminding each other of what it's really all about, right? I mean,
that's right.
That's who we are and what we are, and I'd like to leave the world a better place. And my friends, people, I always think leave people better than when you met them.
That's right.
That's one thing. And like my father always told me, the cost of being a gentleman is nothing, and the rewards are many.
Wow.
And I've always remembered that. So it costs you nothing to be nice to people.
Amen.
And that's a good thing. And we all need to be reminded of that.
Amen.
Especially in today's day and age.
Well,
race is a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, once again, folks, we are with the great David Diaz-Infante, two-time Super Bowl champ, two-time Hall of Famer, unbelievable teammate, family man, businessman. He does it all. He does it all, and does it with a smile on his face and makes you feel better about yourself while he's doing it. It's pretty cool, man. David, thank you so much for hanging with me today for episode number 50. Again, it was an honor and a pleasure to have you, brother. I look forward to speaking with you more and growing the relationship and everything else, man. I can't thank you enough for being here, bud.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure.
Well, folks, thanks once again for tuning in to another episode of the Hit Streak, the big number 50, right? And I promise you, you haven't seen anything yet. We're just getting started, right? So once again, I am your man, Nick Hyder. We'll see you next time. God bless.